Good afternoon, wonderful, beloved family. Welcome once again to another Monday edition, fall edition, school back in session edition of Parent Power Hour. I'm your host, William Richardson. We unfortunately today aren't joined by our face of the franchise, Mr. Tyrone Barnwell, but I am sure we will see him at Tyrone's House Hour Thursday. So good to have you all join us. Please share the live as he would have you do. Text us, join in, put your feedback in the comment section, all of those good things as we go on with the show. Today's show is about school uniforms, which is one of those hot button questions and topics that seems to pervade every year, every decade for school-aged children. We're going to start, though, with our connection question, and that is, what is your favorite winter warm drink? Your favorite winter warm drink, cold day, what is your favorite winter warm drink? I'm going to start with Queen Sister Olu Butterfly because I'm sure she has one that is going to be delicious. Olu.
Okay, I want to be quick and say that I resent you, the question making me think about winter. But anyway, I don't want to think about winter yet. But my favorite warm drink is dairy-free chai latte.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, excuse me for impeding winter on you in these, autumn vibes right now. You're so right. Let's go to our youngster that is on the call today. So very happy to have him, Mr. Ike. Mr. Ike, what is your favorite winter warm drink, sir?
Hot chocolate.
Plain and simple. I love it. Hot chocolate. All right. Ms. LaToya, friend of the program. It's been a while, Ms. LaToya. So good to have you. And Olu as well. It's been quite a while to have you both. Ms. LaToya, how about you? Favorite winter warm drink? You are muted, Ms. LaToya.
Oops. I'm drinking it now. Some peppermint tea.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna see your peppermint tea, add a little bit of Ike's chocolate, and that's where I am. Hot chocolate with a little hint of mint there. So that's for me. Family, please join in when you get a chance. The live should be up and running at some point, but we thank you for joining us as always. So let's cut to the chase. Talking about school uniforms. This is an idea that's been around since the 90s, probably before the 90s. Certainly, if you go to other countries, school uniforms in many places around the world are the norm. It is not normative, at least from a historical standpoint. This kids go to school ununiformed, so to speak. But today, 1 in 5 public schools require school uniforms. There are a few different conflicting arguments about the pros and cons of the uniforms. We're going to start with our scholar first on this question. So, Ike, here is the questions. Should schools have uniforms, in your opinion? Why or why not?
I'm always going to be against it because I'm a kid, but in my opinion, just in general, I think some people might express their feelings in clothes, so I don't think schools should require school uniforms.
Okay, and Ike, if I could follow up with you, does your school require you to wear a uniform or no?
Yes.
It does. Okay, you'd rather wear your own style.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I understand. Let's see. Miss LaToya, what say you, school uniforms?
I would have to agree with EK. I'm not a fan of school uniforms. I wasn't when I was a student either in New York City. And my Timbs didn't go with it. My Timbs don't go with the dress, with the tie, with the button-up shirt, and that's a big thing for a Brooklynite. My Timbs did not go with that. We didn't have Uggs. My kids went with the uniform, but anyway, nonetheless, I wasn't a uniform person then, and I'm not now. I think that they're expensive. I think that they are a way to create another distraction, which is now the principal and the deans and the teachers have to report when you're out of uniform. It's just another way for you to get in trouble during the day. And then they're always trying to get out of it. So it just creates the whole pull and tug of, I told you to do this and you're doing the opposite. It's too much. And it's too much for parents that don't have the money for uniforms either. Sometimes regular clothes are cheaper if your regular clothes are regular priced.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, LaToya. Olu, what say you about school uniforms? Why or why not?
Well, my disclaimer is that I'm an Aquarius, and which is why I'm not going to answer this like regular, but I personally have always avoided them. As LaToya said, as a student, I did not like them. When I first moved to Baltimore, my mom had it in her mind that I was going to go to private school, and I intentionally was like, well, I don't want to look at any private school that has uniforms. So even among private schools, I was like, nope. To me, that was like a symbol of oppression, right? When I was younger. And so my conditional answer, my nuanced answer is that schools should be places of agreement. So I think that there are definitely some families, some children, some parents that love and appreciate uniforms. And you know, the fact that we kind of don't have a say in it is I guess part of my challenge. So I think there could be a place for uniforms. I personally don't love them. I don't love them as a parent. I don't love them as an educator. As LaToya has mentioned, I'm not the one that's gonna be writing you up. Like if we're learning, like, and you chewing gum with a hoodie, these things are maybe, you know, not allowed. And I'm not saying that I'm encouraging them or making a big space for them. But if we're on target, on point, and we're learning, that I'm not going to be the one creating this extra obstacle. So, and then as a parent, recently, this is the first year, because mostly I've been a homeschooler. This is the first year I've had to deal with them as a parent. And it has been very expensive and a struggle of time. It's either expensive or time consuming. In order to avoid the expense, I had to do a lot of research. I had to compete with a whole bunch of people who are also looking for uniforms, secondhand, etc., from different places. And so, and then my answer during COVID, like coming back from COVID, was just no. So that's like absolute no. Like I think that this was the wrong time for uniforms.
All right. Thank you for expounding, Olu, and all of you for your thoughts. Some people say uniforms improve grades and attendance by reducing the distraction of personal clothes. Ike, how do you feel about uniforms? Do you think they play a role in education?
No.
Okay.
Because basically I've got this experience. If I'm forced to do something I don't like, I'm not gonna do it as well, or so I'm not gonna want to do it. So that's the same with uniforms. If you're wearing uniforms and you don't like it, you'll probably be less engaged.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ike. Some very insightful. What grade are you in, good sir? Fifth grade. Very, very insightful remarks from you. Thank you so much. LaToya, what do you think? What is the impact of uniforms on education?
My mom's name is Mommy, but her other name is Apostle Payne. So I could only wear jeans one day a week anyway. So I feel like the way she did things, even though I wouldn't do that to my children because she's not on this live, but she stressed me out too. But I wouldn't do that to my children. But I think that parents should control what their children wear because they buy the clothes. I wore jeans on gym day. Usually there was a Thursday or Friday. Other than that, I wore slacks. She wanted me to dress like school was my job. And coming from Alabama and her trying to get into the New York feel and everything. She just wanted me to look the part that she wanted me to play. And I understand that now. I just think that parents should be in charge of what their children wear, and it doesn't have anything to do with education, because the last school that I was at, they wore uniforms and the skirts were extremely too short. And then what ends up happening is then your trousers become extremely tight. And now they're not jeans, they're trousers, which are thinner material. And, you know, now you're creating other issues. Now the shirts tie at the bottom. Now the top button is unbuttoned up here. So you're creating different issues. Just like you said, that's exactly what I would do. If I have a problem with what I have on, I'm not going to sit there and read the book.
So it becomes a distraction in and of itself.
It becomes a distraction itself, yeah.
Okay. Olu, how about you?
I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but in sharing about this podcast, Rebecca had an interesting fact about the different income factors, like schools that tend to serve higher income tend to not have uniforms. And it is a nuanced cultural thing, right? So for me, I'm comparing uniforms to hand-me-downs. My children wear hand-me-downs like a lot. So, you know, I supplement, of course, you know, with what I purchase. But so that's what I'm comparing it to. I'm not comparing it to I went out and bought a whole full wardrobe of like polo, you know what I'm saying? Like, so just in terms of like how people dress, I went to very affluent schools, and they absolutely, we dress like bums. I mean, to be honest, right? So if your shoes look too fresh, it was kind of like that was what was frowned on. But culturally, where I lived, it was the opposite. Your shoes had to look fresh or you were getting joked. And you know, it was very two different worlds. And I'm not sure like if you could compare or, you know, say, hey, let me transplant this idea onto that. So if I'm comparing uniforms to people feeling like they have to get whole full new fall wardrobes of name brand clothes, then absolutely uniforms are less expensive. And now I'm maybe just investing in a pair of shoes, like nice shoes for my child. And, you know, because people still find ways to judge you. And as LaToya said, and people still find ways to push the boundaries of the uniforms to do certain things. So I'm kind of comparing it to not that like, you know, just being able to wear your regular clothes that you usually wear. A t-shirt you got from summer camp, wear it. Like,
okay, thank you. This is from Yvette Michelle Reed. Yvette Michelle Reed, thank you for your comment. She says uniforms are great. They make everyone uniform. There's less focus on who has what, as everyone looks the same. There's less teasing for what the children are wearing, as everyone is wearing the same thing. I'm a teacher and I wear one too. It's easy to pick out what to wear. Basic uniforms are not expensive if you know where to shop. And she also says, I had a student with her stomach out and very short shorts. This is distracting. My school doesn't have a uniform dress code, and I wish we did. We are a charter school. So, you know, here is an educator who was talking about the distractions that, well, to your point, LaToya, that the uniform becomes an easy tool of rebellion. I don't like it, so I'm not going to wear it properly, which in turn becomes a distraction with, like you said, the shirt tails out and tied, the buttons further down the chest area than they should be. You know, you go back to Fresh Prince, where he used to wear his jacket inside out so you can see the paisley inside. You know, so it becomes a distraction to Michelle. Let's see. I think that's about it there. So we talked about uniforms. All of you pretty much seem to agree that it stifles individuality. So the District Code of Conduct, this is quotes from Baltimore City. Students cannot be excluded from school or from school activities, for example, field trips, for not wearing their uniform. If you have a concern about the way school uniform requirements are enforced at your school, please speak with your school's principal, end quote. LaToya, what's your experience with the way uniform policies are enforced? Let's use your school. And then also, do you think there should be consequences for not having a proper uniform on? So we'll start with LaToya. We'll kick that question around to everybody. What are the uniform policies? How are they enforced at your school? And should there be consequences if they're not worn?
So the Baltimore City website says that. When did they start that policy?
That's a great question. Honestly, the whole uniform thing is not mandated. It's a loose policy. It's not. They can't mandate that. So how is it enforced with your
mandated? School? It was mandated, heavily, strongly mandated, and I was at the front desk, so I used to have to loan out uniforms. If the child refused to take a loaner uniform, then they would be sent home. They would get detention. They definitely weren't going on any field trips. So that's why the policy was so interesting to me, because I'm like, huh, when did that policy come out? Couldn't have been out 3 years ago.
Well, it's really a soft policy. There is no mandate, and the school and a student cannot be refused either education, or academic help because they don't have a uniform. It is not a law. It is not, it's just like I said, it's a soft policy. Olu, how about you? Actually, let's go to EK. Well, EK stepped away for a second. Let's go to Olu. And then we'll come back to EK. Go ahead, EK. We'll give you a few moments there. So Olu, what about you?
It makes sense that it's not. I was just going to say it makes sense that it's not a policy, considering, it's public school. It's compulsory education. And then if you keep making conditions around who and how they can receive that education, it makes sense that it cannot be mandated on that level. Realistically, it doesn't make sense though if you don't enforce it, right? It's like now you're going to have a classroom where half the people have uniforms on and half of them don't. Now the Aquarius in me, that's why I gave that disclaimer, is fine with that, because I think that uniforms really do serve some people. Some people would prefer them for a variety of reasons. As the person, I'm glad that I was like, even though we're sort of a panel of like anti, that there are people in the chat who are pro, and I respect that. And so the idea of wearing the same thing every day, like Smurfette going to the closet, that could be very useful. It doesn't require any mental energy. It's not like, I get it. It's easy to do. And so I think that it serves, many people would prefer it. Even like the idea that it could be optional, I think would make people cringe. Like, what would be the point? I think some people would love that. And then the people who don't wouldn't. Like, and maybe that is a way forward. For me, like I said, I appreciate the idea of uniforms, like meaning that like I played sports, so we had a team that wore uniforms. If we just came with like an athletic shirt and athletic pants, that wouldn't really have the same spirit and effect. But to see a sea of people that look the same every day, I personally don't love that. That humanity part. It's like, even if everybody was wearing the same thing every day within themselves, but they look different from each other, that would be like preferable. But just to see like a sea of people that all look the same, I just don't, that's just, me personally, I don't prefer that. So the idea of like enforcing it, I was an educator, I would say, during the transition when it started to be a thing in public schools. And I feel like that was like early 2000s. Am I correct about that? Does anybody know? And
that's all right.
So I saw the heavy-handed cultural shift. It had to be heavy-handed, otherwise it wouldn't have flown. So people are coming to school, and I saw people that needed help, like they were outgrowing their pants. They didn't have parents that were able to keep up. I know people are talking about like cost, but it's like to have this like sort of narrow definition of what you can wear does add cost to some people. So there were, especially in high school, there's people who are far outside of the hand-me-down life, and they have to get all brand new everything, that year. So I saw people struggle with like they were wearing their pants like sagging, but that's so it wouldn't be high waters, like and I saw them kind of give them these ugly shirts that said like loner on them, I think in an attempt to embarrass them. And I saw all of that happen. It was a cultural shift, and people being held in rooms that weren't in uniform, etc. And when people didn't agree to it, I think building agreement is just something that this culture doesn't understand and doesn't do. I think is where the problem lies.
Thank you, Olu. Ike, how are uniforms expected to be worn at your school, and do the scholars get a consequence, negative consequence, when they aren't worn?
Well, at my school, before COVID, if someone didn't wear a uniform, they'll give you a change of uniform, and you might lose some recess. But now since they can't really change it, people, more kids are not really wearing their uniforms. They can't do anything about it. And in my opinion, right now, I don't think there's really a point in going out of your way to make consequences for something and wasting your time in your day.
Ike, we lost you a little bit on your last statement. What did you say about time every day?
I don't think that that the teachers should go out of their way to punish people, and they should just keep going and maybe tell.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Ike. Yeah, to your point, Olu, that you made earlier, our esteemed producer, of course, Rebecca, with the numbers here, 47% of high poverty schools require uniforms, while only 6% of low poverty schools require uniforms. Why do you think that would be? A 47% of high poverty schools require uniforms, while only 6% of low poverty schools require them? What do you think this statistic means? Olu, I'm going to jump and direct that question to you first before we go around the table there.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I was bringing up that it was a sort of a cultural thing where my children, when I first put them in school, went to a school that didn't have uniforms, and people wore, some people chose to dress up, but mostly people were not. It looked like they weren't concerned about being fashionable. They were wearing just comfortable clothes. And this school was definitely a quote unquote low poverty school. And now my children are, at schools that have uniforms, and just in terms of, like I said, the idea that like the role that clothes play in the community, I think is the difference. As I think that there may be some genuine response to that, like what do clothes mean in a quote unquote high poverty area versus low poverty area, like what kind of emphasis is put on clothes or focus culturally. I think that plays a role, and people are trying to respond to that. That's my nice answer, I guess.
No, I mean, I think that's interesting. And I think, I don't know to what extent, that school of thought has been placed on the uniform issue. because as you put it, the same brand of clothes in one community may be something totally different in another community. And what, like you said, what is the emphasis outside of school that is put on those clothes? I'll go back to the chat here. Thank you, Yvette, for continuing on with your comments and staying in the conversation, staying engaged with us. Thank you so much. She says uniforms are only expensive if you're purchasing, I think she's meaning big name brand and expensive stuff. Basic uniforms are less expensive than regular clothing. If everyone is wearing the same thing, there's a lot less teasing. If a child is upset for having to wear a uniform and don't do their work because of this, their focus is in the wrong place. At work as an adult, where uniforms are necessary, what do? Quit your job because you don't like the dress code? Anybody like to address what Yvette said about those comments and dress code or not dress code as an adult? Go ahead, LaToya.
So when I got here, because in New York, all our uniforms are either tan, green, blue, or black. It's not like, I mean, your school can do like, what is that? The boxes, or the plaid and whatnot, but those are the main colors. Here, you can identify a student by the school they go to. Oh, look at that purple plaid skirt. She go to that all-girls school downtown. Look at them. Oh, that tan shirt right there. That must be that school up the block. No, that's the school down this way, because they wear tan and they wear gray pants. They wear tan and they wear black pants. You can identify a student by the school. I don't know if I necessarily like that. I want you to have to get all up on my child's shirt to see that emblem. I don't know if I find it here a lot, especially in the older schools. And I've heard people in the that, you know, our police officers or whatever say, well, yeah, I knew she went to that school because she had on that purple plaid skirt. You know, it's easy to identify them, but as I just don't know. I think that it should be the parents' choice, like I keep saying. I don't think that they should be made to do anything as far as the parents are concerned. I'm not saying that it should be a student's choice. I'm saying that the parents control the finances. They should control the closet, you know. And she is right. If a student is so mad that they have to wear a uniform, that they're not doing their work, then their focus is in the wrong place. You're absolutely right. But then the first wrong focus was when the school, my opinion, required the uniform instead of just requiring that the kids come ready to learn.
All right, thank you, LaToya. EK, with your peers and some of the young people that you surround yourself with, how do they feel about the uniforms? Do all of them like them? Do all of them not like them? Or is there, you got some friends that like them and some don't?
Most of my class hates the uniforms. Maybe one or two people are just fine with them. I'm sure they don't like it, but I'm sure they're not gonna they're not gonna fight about it or something, or they're like fine with it. Like they might not necessarily like it, but they're wearing it so they can just learn and then go back home and do their homework.
They accept it. Okay, EK, let me ask you this. Do you have any friends or know any students at your school who maybe was teased or made fun of before they were wearing uniforms, and now that they're not wearing them, they don't get teased the same?
Well, in my school, people don't really tease about clothes. Maybe because of uniforms, but the things that most people tease about are like someone's athletic skill or like what kind of shoes they're wearing.
Okay, and then that's a great point too that you make, EK, because you know, I think nowadays in a uniform school, the main differentiation from child to child is the footwear. So unless you say with the uniform you have to have a, you know, certain particular shoe, you know, all black or all blue or dress or, you know, soft bottom dress, whatever the case may be, you still may end up with the same issue because you're going to have, you know, EK might be wearing this particular brand of shoes that's considered stylish. And EK's friend may have a brand of shoes that is not considered stylish. And they may end up, both of them have different peer interactions based on the shoes. You know, EK was saying that about the athletic ability, for example, but I've seen that too, where everybody's wearing a uniform, no problem. But the shoes being different is the one thing where the scholars will look down and say, oh, you know, this person isn't wearing this person isn't wearing that. Looks like we lost Olu for just a second there. But LaToya, you kind of mentioned this, but getting back to Yvette's point about what do you do if your job tells you need to wear a uniform, and I think,
Right.
and I would say that why she's saying that, I don't know, I shouldn't say that, but I can understand the question in terms of how do we model this for our students and our young people if they have to go to a place where their job, one of the responsibilities is for them to be in a uniform, and there are many professions like that. What do you say to that, LaToya? How do we juxtapose those things? Go ahead.
I don't know what to say to the youth, but I do know that from the youth side, they would probably respond with, like, I can see a parent saying, well, nurses have to wear uniforms, people that work for the MTA have to wear uniforms, police officers wear uniforms. And I could see my child saying, yeah, because they have to. Nurses have to wear that in case they get any bodily fluids on them. Police officers have to wear that in case they have to shoot somebody. I could see my kids saying something smart like that, because I'm a January Aquarius. So I could see my kids spitting it right back. You're absolutely right, Mom. Doctors do have to wear that, but I don't see you walking around with a stethoscope. I'm not sending my kids to no uniforms to school if they anything like me. So I don't know what to tell you to tell your children if you have to explain to them that everybody has to do it, except one of my mom and my dad's favorite line is, you have to do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do.
Okay. Thank you, LaToya. Olu, let's talk about cost. You were mentioning it a little bit. One of the questions we have here, we know uniform costs money, but so do clothes. Some people say uniforms are cheaper. Yvette, our online guest was saying the same. Some say that they are not cheaper. What are the issues with the cost that you see, Olu?
It was not cheaper for me at all. My children have clothes that fit them, and that was my issue. So how I ended up here was, my complaint was around not just about uniforms as a principal, but around COVID. So we have not been in person with each other, where the young people have been having to come out the house regularly, some of them for over a year. So suddenly they have to go get these clothes that have to fit, like everybody at the same time having to go and get, and I can tell you, because I stood in line, me and half of Baltimore was in that line trying to get uniforms, right? And I spent a whole lot of money, because there's different seasons, right? So you got to get short sleeve, you got to get long sleeve. And after I spent all that money, I still didn't have like complete, like I still got to go get more. I just feel like that. So I had grandparents pitching. And then I had the opportunity to connect with other parents to do hand-me-downs. And I'm lucky because I have children who can receive hand-me-downs. When they get to be older, that's not really as much of an option. You know, they start to be as big as any grown person, and the hand-me-downs is not an option anymore. And so to have to get, especially with my laundry situation, and no guarantee that there's any re-wearing, right? Some people can do that, and my children is hit or miss. So I gotta get at least 10 outfits in season, and it was a lot of work. I was on Facebook Marketplace. I was communicating with other parents. I did the work to not have to spend all the money, but that was a lot of work. That took a lot from, God forbid you have more than one child. So I feel like there was a distraction. My children have clothes that fit them. They could have just went to school. You know what I'm saying? They have some clothes that fit them. They've been wearing all summer. They've been wearing, I just feel like the COVID thing, just, that was my actual issue. Like, just added another element. There's back orders. People are saying you could just go get them. If you weren't one of these people who, like, I don't know, put stuff on layaway and ordered early in the summer, because I didn't know, you know, some schools like accepted us later in the year or whatever, like if people were just doing a variety of things. So I have very little time, and bless everybody that was like really on point, bless y'all. But then there's everybody else. So at the last minute, you're competing with all types of sold out. I went online, stuff is sold out. In person, I still need to go get some khaki pants. Like, the pants were sold out in their sizes. There's back orders from, you know, there's supply issues. So these were some of the things that I encountered, and I am a problem solver. I don't have some of the obstacles that some other people may have. It's not like I'm not rich, but it's not like I don't have some resources within my community, etc. And I just felt like it was just an extra obstacle. I saw schools across the nation make adjustments, district-wide adjustments. And I felt like that was the least we could do. Say, hey, maybe for the first 2 quarters, maybe ease into it, or, you know, and I saw a lot of schools locally dismiss it, abolish, like, this year we're not doing uniforms, or we're just going to do tops. Just try to have on the top. You know, I just felt like the lack of flexibility is just during this time period when we don't got enough bus drivers, etc. I just thought that specifically was unacceptable. And you know, just in terms of the things that people usually have, those clothing swaps, those you know, where people come and, like, we weren't in touch with each other before, like, the first day of school. And another thing that blindsided me personally was learning that the first day of school was August 30th, because usually it's after that, you know, there was a whole decree that it was going to be after Labor Day. So it was some time that we knew that it was going to be August, but that was still an adjustment for me personally to get ready. Like, okay, so I'm just speaking, you know, as a parent. And as some of the things I've seen during COVID, I had a friend that recently crowdfunded. There was a young man who didn't have any khakis, and he came to school. On the first day, he came in uniform, but that was all he had. He wore out the extent of what he had available. So then after that, he wasn't coming in uniform. So, you know, people took it up, but I was like, this shouldn't have even happened where we gotta, like, crowd fund so this young man could be in uniform times however many people that are working, struggling, etc. And I'm sitting here, like, doing laundry regularly. That's just me. Like, so I'm sure some people appreciated it, but I just saw a variety of things, and I saw different districts across the nation respond with, you know, schools that usually had uniforms saying, hey, don't worry about that.
Yeah, definitely. There were definitely some school districts that were really tapping into the human element and to the social capital of the parents and the students. And the least of the things that were important were the uniforms. LaToya, I want to come to you in a moment about cost. Let me share some of what our online family and viewers have written in, and forgive me, you all, I didn't see these until late, my fault. Patrice Trammell, I think uniforms kind of curb peer issues. Kids tend to get bullied for not having popular brands and designers on. We did speak to that point. Mr. Michael Cheney, how you doing, sir? Great nuggets from Miss LaToya and Miss Butterfly and Mr. Dugan. Thank you so much, Cheney, for that encouragement. And Yvette says, again, I don't think there should be a punishment or consequence for not wearing a uniform, but instead rewards for those who do to help encourage uniform wearing. And Miss Yaja Pintour. Hey, Yaja, how are you? Good to hear from you. I agree with Miss Olu. LaToya, getting back to cost, how do you compare what they call, I don't know, street clothes versus uniform in terms of cost?
So I went to the old school I used to work at. I went to their uniform store, and I know that they serve a lot of schools here. It's called Dennis Uniform. And the skirt is $52. The trousers are $30.25. And no, they are gray, and no, you cannot wear gray jeans. The gym shorts are $17.80. The gray sweater, which you must have, you cannot wear a regular hoodie. Your grandmother cannot get you a gray sweater and put the school name on it. It has to be a dentist uniform. You cannot wear just the colors. It must be a dentist uniform. The gray cardigan is $42.15. The uniform shirt is $24.60. Another micro fleece pullover, which you must have because it has a school emblem or you'll be cold, is $35.40. The other one is $43.30.
And these are all, thank you. That was great, LaToya, because that gave us a real life tangible analysis of the cost. Now, for this particular school, all of these elements of the uniform are required per student?
Pants, skirt, shirt. And you have to get your baby a sweater because if they're cold, they can't wear their hoodie. They can't wear a jacket. They have to wear that sweater. So you have to get your baby a sweater or a fleece pullover. And then that's for middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then they grow in middle school. And then they go to high school and the uniform color changes. And the high school and middle school are in the same building.
Wow. Well, and it sounds from that particular website, there is one hand kind of scratching the other there, because you have the mandate, the soft mandate, as we discuss here for uniform, but they sound almost exorbitant, the prices to me. I don't know. That's you're talking about kids' clothes. And some of those pieces are much more than I would pay for my own clothing from what I'm hearing, so yeah, that's an issue. That's certainly an issue. And I know that, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the prices were between $7 and $20. They weren't quite on that level. And I have places that are they're flexible. It doesn't have to have like the name on it. So I could say it's between, but the quality, of course, of the lower, if I get a shirt for $7, but no, the collar shirts are no less than 11, I would say. I got some of mine from Mondawmin. So, and if you order it online, but like I said, online was like sold out. Forget about it.
Wow. And it looks like here there are some schools that are, I know at the school that I serve at, there's no emblem that's required. The community school, it's a community school. So what they try to do is get donated uniforms year to year and throughout the year. So it's a little bit different, I guess, in schools that have that kind of a situation where as long as they have them, the families and scholars, I know at the school that I serve at, the scholars can have as many as they need until they run out. But that is not always the case. And LaToya, the point you were making is that at that particular school, you must have name and emblem attached. That means that you have to go to that particular place to purchase those uniforms. You can't get a patch. Some used to be back in the day, you could buy a school patch and get a cheap shirt, polo, or pant, and get grandma or ma or the cleaners to put the patch on. Right, but that is not the case at that particular institution there. All right, let's see. Okay, this is Yvette. Thanks again, Yvette. She says, Foreman Mills, Walmart, and Target has uniforms that aren't super expensive. Target is the most expensive out of this list. Old Navy has uniforms too. These stores are basic uniforms without school names, of course, for the schools that don't require school names. Super Kids is good too. Some people don't want to purchase uniforms from these stores. Olu says sold out. And I know that was a problem early when parents are making the shift to go back to virtual learning. And Olu, to your point, LaToya, to your point, and probably somewhere in there, EK, I do recall you saying that this is COVID. It's a shift from parents and scholars not having to wear them, parents not needing and saving that, sound like 150, if my math is right, about $150 per scholar. And that's probably at the outset, as you say, the kids grow during the year. EK, you know this as well, and you all get big throughout the year. And so, you know, it is a shift that people are going back to. It's a whole reset. And so that grace, Olu, that you spoke about, I'm sure would have been welcomed by many, many people if they said, okay, give us a couple months, okay, maybe just a shirt, or, you know, give us some time to get it together. But there seemed to be pressure to get back in those uniforms. Let's see. She does say, this is Yvette, yes, schools with specific uniform with the school name can be expensive. I agree with this. And we got to remember, it's really difficult when we begin to, you know, how they say pejorative, you know, count people's money. So what's expensive to me may not be expensive to you. What's expensive to you may not be expensive to me. So it's hard to divine what's in people's pockets. To your point, Olu, what resources people have, what community resources are there. You can't look at it as just, oh, well, it's only X amount of dollars, because X amount of dollars to one person certainly could be more significant one way or the other for other folks. Let me see. Yaja says, the parent-teacher organizations or family councils can speak to getting the prices down. The patches, emblems being seen on is a better idea. All right, thank you, Yaja, for your input. Well, back to the panel, you all. Any final thoughts on this? EK, do you see at school, you're totally against uniforms. Do you see, is there any way in your mind that maybe not wearing a uniform, but maybe the students getting together and collaborating on some kind of clothing for the school? Would you like that kind of thing, or you just like everybody wearing whatever they like to wear?
Well, people, I mean, the school might not accept us like doing something like that, but I would prefer this everybody wearing what they want, because my school has a lot of restrictions. Like, we can't wear a hoodie. Like, even if we're not wearing a hoodie, putting a hoodie on, we can't wear anything with a hoodie. We can't wear any head coverings for any reasons except religious. We also can't really, and I would be fine if it was more of like if it wasn't like khaki pants and if it wasn't khaki pants or something like that, like I would be fine with it if it was just a gray t-shirt and shorts or pants. But people in my school, they're probably not gonna take the time to figure out something that the school will allow. So.
Oh, that's a great point. Okay, well, how about you? Have you thought about bringing that up as a proposal to your principal, your AP, or is there a student government that you could say, hey, well listen, you know, the kids don't like wearing the uniforms, but the adults, the administration, you want us to wear them. Can the students design a uniform? Have you thought about asking that question of your administration, EK?
Not really.
Okay, maybe you can do that. You seem like an enterprising young person, and I certainly appreciate you being on the show and giving your honest insight and feedback. LaToya, final thoughts on this situation, Timberlands included?
I just think that that is just something else that a PTO would, you know, be really good at. That's something that they would be able to fight for. That's something that they would be able to ask for. But there are plenty of schools that don't have active PTOs, and, you know, they don't have that voice. And now with COVID and everything, it's sometimes hard to get a voice in the building, period. So I just think that that is a reason why as parents and educators, we have to be more active advocating for our students. If it's a big problem, then that's something that you should advocate for. And that's another way to teach your students, just like what you have to, you need to do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. That's another way to teach them to advocate for themselves. I have a problem paying for this uniform, so I'm going to say something to the school.
Indeed, thank you. And before we come to Olu with her final thoughts really quickly, Yaja says Liberty Elementary had t-shirts with Liberty Kids. She has it in quotations, Liberty Kids on it. And Yvette says, I like the idea of scholars designing their uniform. Before I come to Olu, Yvette, Yaja, Michael Cheney, who else did I miss? Patrice, thank you all so much for joining us, for your comments and feedback. Olu, final thoughts on uniform.
I think at best, uniforms are colonial vestiges. At worst, they're a kind of fodder for like I guess the current like labor system, or like the idea that we're here, like saying that like what happens if one day you have to wear a uniform. In my professional career, I've only had to wear a uniform when I worked at Papa John's. That's it. And so I absolutely would not want to override. I think that parents have valid reasons and arguments for uniforms. I think that that should be a voice that is heard. But me personally, you know, I used to go to Sidwell Friends in DC, right? And that's the school that the Obamas went to. And I looked it up recently. It costs $45,000 a year to go there, which doesn't make any sense to me. Like, for that amount of money, you could just take your children and travel, and they would get more than any school could provide. That's another story. But the idea that like that it has some kind of necessary, like that it's necessary, or it's like some kind of attachment, like these are people who are gonna be just fine. The people I went to school with, they're just fine in the world. They're the ones running things, etc. And there was no uniform, and even around clothing, it just wasn't like the same concepts. It was about the same things. Teenagers are always rebelling with their clothing. Like, that's not new, that's not different, whether it's this school or that school, where people are seeking to identify and break out and establish themselves with their identity. So those things will continue. So just being more open-minded, including about what the uniforms have to look like. My children spend time in Ghana. In Ghana, the girls used to have to shave their head as well. So if you looked across the classroom, literally everybody looks the same. Girls, no hair, a short, close cut, just like the boys. And some of that is changing, because I was wondering if that was a colonial vestige or that was something intrinsically cultural. But sometimes their uniforms are actually made with local fabric, like Ghanaian fabric. It doesn't have to be, everything doesn't have to be khaki. Everything doesn't have to be this specific thing. So this sea of like sameness, that wouldn't help with LaToya's concept of being able to be identified from afar from a particular school. But I just personally don't like everybody looking the same. So that's just my personal opinion, but I respect people being able to find the space that they're in agreement with.
Olu Butterfly, LaToya, and EK, thank you so much for joining us today with your insight and your honesty. Thank all of you that have joined us. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday at Tyrone's house, where he will speak and I will listen, I promise you. Join us next Monday after that for Parent Power Hour. As always, take good care of yourselves. Peace.